You have a whole new focus, a whole new nucleus. How does that land with you?
No, I think the focus is very much the same. Right?
Is it?
Yeah, certainly from my wife's point of view.
Yeah.
In Harry's recent Today interview, there's a big difference between what he obviously wants to communicate and the words he chooses to communicate it. On a surface level, he gives the impression that his sole focus is on his current life in the US and that moving hasn't been a major change. When we dive deeper, however, we see his word choices and syntax that point to another reality, or at the very least, a coexisting reality. Either way, there's more to Harry's statements than meets the eye. Thanks for suggesting this video. Don't forget to comment what you notice in this interview, or what you think about it.
You've spoken about, obviously, mental health issues. When you put that heavy backpack down, like people are lugging stuff around, when you finally put it down, do you feel yourself like peaceful?
Yeah, I think everyone ends up feeling lighter, I think is the best way to describe it. For so many people, it's about management. You know the things that trigger you, therefore you try and stay away from that. But what I do know is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for absolutely everyone.
Everybody.
The interviewer starts with loading the question with a particular mood. She makes assumptions that create sympathy for Harry. The words heavy and finally assume that Harry's backpack is in fact heavy and that there is a time when he finally puts it down. With these assumptions, she creates a false sense of alignment with Harry, taking his side and thus inviting him to share his feelings. This alignment is further emphasized by her deliberate facial expressions. When trying to get people to express their feelings, the best strategy is to express sympathy for them. Harry's answer is the first of many instances of association. Instead of only answering for himself, he appeals to the collective everyone and for so many people. This way, his answer isn't as personal as the interviewer obviously hoped for. She's trying to personalize, and he's trying to generalize. He changes the word peaceful to lighter. This way, he actually answers a different question, and there's an important difference between being peaceful and feeling lighter, which is a comparative of the root form light. Overall, his answer shows that he's having trouble with the word peaceful, but also that he doesn't want to make his disagreement too explicit. She noticed that Harry didn't answer explicitly, because next she keeps asking about being peaceful, the very question Harry was trying to avoid. She uses two strategies to try to get him to talk. One, she provides more context, what she's really referring to, which is Harry having moved to the US. And two, she keeps personalizing. This time she says all she wants in life is to be peaceful. How convenient.
I don't know if you feel the same way. The only thing I want in my life is to feel like peaceful. You've lived in the United States for 2 years.
2 years already, yeah.
Do you feel peaceful now?
I don't know how many people feel truly peaceful, you know? At times I feel massively at peace. But with everything that's going on in the world and trying to help and trying to use the platform and the influence to try and steer people to trying to help. And again, like, I think the biggest concern or the biggest issue that people wrestle with on a daily basis that does provide more anxiety for me and for them is the helplessness. We as human beings are compassionate people, but when your life becomes really hard, it can be, for some, harder to find the compassion for other people. But what I've learned over the years is, certainly for myself, I find healing in helping others. And I think that's what we should really be focusing on.
I love that.
Harry continues associating with other people, saying he doesn't know how many people feel truly peaceful, and mentioning helplessness as the biggest concern that people wrestle with. Aside from the depersonalization, this is a more direct expression of disagreement with the interviewer's word choice. He says that at times he feels massively at peace. Even though massively is a strong word, the conjunction but, which famously minimizes the preceding statement, gives small weight to all the times where he doesn't feel peaceful. And he ends up saying that healing through helping is what we should be focusing on, which negates the peacefulness that the interviewer is talking about. Also, it's worth wondering what's personal and what's general in Harry's statements. When he talks about life being hard, is he talking about himself or other people? Likewise, when he mentions helplessness. Because he uses association, this is difficult to answer, but also, exactly because he uses association, he implicitly points to the possibility that he sometimes, or oftentimes, feels more helpless than helpful. No matter what, he uses his answer to escape the moving to the US frame that the interviewer was trying to set. With the disagreement with word choice and the avoidance of the frame, there's way more going on in this interview beneath the surface. We noticed that Harry emphasized the things that didn't make him feel peaceful, which indicates a struggle, and this struggle is further emphasized when he says this.
Cheekiness is something that keeps you alive. As I said, there's so much to be happy about in the outside world, but there's also so much to worry about. My sort of mantra now every day is, and it's a dangerous one because I need to make sure that I don't have burnout, but is trying to make the world a better place for my kids. Otherwise, what's the point in bringing kids into this world, right?
He keeps referring to world problems and wanting to make the world a better place. This is his go-to response. But also, it's worth noting how his word choice and syntax keep emphasizing the things he worries about. He even mentions the word burnout as something he's aware of. On this basis, it's worth considering the possibility that Harry tries to fix outside problems because he struggles with fixing his own problems or doesn't know how to fix them. Because it's important to remember the major change Harry's gone through in the past years. In the Oprah interview, he mentioned personal problems, that the royal family would be removing everything in the exit agreement, and that he was hurt by the Queen's decision, that the relationship to his brother was space, but that time heals all things, hopefully. It's interesting to note the word heal. This is the same generic word he uses in the Today interview, when he underlines healing through helping. This is a strong indication that it's Harry who needs healing. Also, in the Oprah interview, it's worth noting the shock he expresses when Meghan told him she didn't want to live anymore. He says he wasn't prepared for it, that he went to a dark place, and that he was terrified. He then took matters into his own hands because he feared for his own mental health and Meghan's. These statements show that he wasn't in a dark place and that he didn't take matters into his own hands before Meghan expressed her sadness. In the interview, he also mentioned living in her shoes as a way to find out how she felt. Thus, the change for Harry has been overwhelming. In these videos, I go into more detail about Harry's important statements. You can find the links in the description. You can also check the playlist on this channel. Next, the interviewer asks how it felt being back in the UK to visit the Queen, and Harry finds this question difficult. He starts with the interjection, a hesitation marker.
How did it feel being back? Being with her?
Being with her, it was great. It was just so nice to see her. You know, she's on great form. She's always got a great sense of humour with me, and I'm just making sure that she's, you know, protected and got the right people around.
Well, you make her laugh. That's what she always says. Did you do it again?
Yes, yeah, I did. Both Meghan and I had tea with her, so it was really nice to catch up with her.
Harry was asked if he made the Queen laugh. He acknowledges this briefly before he says he had tea with her, and that it was nice to catch up with her. Obviously, Harry's interested in summing things up quickly and moving on to the next question. That he's interested in moving on is underlined by his next statement, that the US is his home now.
And, you know, home for me now is you know, for the time being, it's in the States. And it feels that way as well.
Does it?
Yeah. We've been welcomed with open arms. And it's got such a great community up in Santa Barbara, so.
However, she keeps wanting to talk about the UK versus the US. Right after mentioning the Queen's birthday, she mentions the Queen's Jubilee. She does this in a seemingly casual and joking manner, but in reality, it's to get to the more important question, whether Harry will attend.
I think after a certain age you get bored of birthdays.
You do? You think she's bored of her 96? She won't be bored of the Jubilee, will she?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. she's had a few Jubilees now, so everyone is slightly different. But
Yeah.
I'm sure she's looking.
Do you
forward
think
to
you'll
it.
come?
I don't know yet. There's lots of things with security issues and everything else. So this is what I'm trying to do, trying to make it possible that I can get my kids to meet her.
He says there are lots of things before mentioning security specifically. Lots of things combined with the words and everything else suggest there are other, weightier reasons than security. He uses the singular pronoun I when he says he's trying to make it possible. He doesn't say we, referring to Meghan as well.
Your family at home, do you miss them?
Yes, I think, especially over the last 2 years, for most people, have they not missed their family, right? The inability to be able to get home and see them. Of course, that's a huge part of it.
Again, he depersonalizes the question, as he says most people, and formulates a rhetorical question.
For most people, have they not missed their family?
He once again shows the interviewer that there's nothing special about his situation, allegedly. This could indicate that he's still struggling with the decision. And combined with his previous statements in this interview and in the Oprah interview, struggling is definitely a possibility.
But do you miss your brother, your dad?
Look, I mean, for me, at the moment, I'm here focused on these guys and these families and giving everything I can, 120% to them, to make sure that they have the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's my focus here. And then when I leave here, I get back and my focus is my family, who I miss massively.
You do, I bet.
Of course I do. They're two little people,
Harry evades this very personal question about missing his dad and brother. Instead, he speaks about the families at the games and how much he misses his family in the US. This is a complete focus shift. On a surface level, it sounds like he merely wants to talk about something else because he's talked about it before. However, it's worth noting that if Harry had truly processed his feelings, this would be an easy question to say yes to. Implicitly, he indicates that his focus is actually not just on these families at this time, and that the question is problematic. Linguistically, he tries to hide the fact that it's problematic behind cliches like experience of a lifetime and giving 120% to them. He tries to make it sound like he's very good at compartmentalizing. That when he's at the games, he's focused on the games, and when he's with his family, he's focused on his family. However, the very way he evades the question proves the exact opposite, that the interviewer's question struck a nerve. The interviewer doesn't stop. She keeps mentioning Harry's new life, and Harry continues to unreliably downplay the importance of the change.
I was thinking about a new life, like you got a whole restart. You have a whole new focus, a whole new nucleus. How does that land with you?
No, I think the focus is very much the same. Right?
Is it?
Yeah, certainly from my and my wife's point of view.
Yeah.
For the two of us, this was a life that she signed up for, and that we were committed to doing together as a couple forever. Because of the circumstances, we've now moved that life of service to the States, and we'll continue to do what we were doing before. So in that regard, nothing's changed for us. It's just a little bit more complicated to have to sort of restart. If you know what I mean.
He thinks the focus is very much the same. Think is a hedge, expressing uncertainty, and it foreshadows his moderation of this statement after the interviewer presses him with the dichotomy question, is it? He now says the focus is the same from Meghan's point of view, even though he briefly changes the perspective to include the two of us. He immediately shifts to the pronoun she, talking about their current life being a life that she signed up for. He says circumstances, which is general and hence distancing. Once again, he shows that these circumstances are sensitive to him, and very likely that he still hasn't come to terms with them. He says nothing's changed in that regard. This restriction foreshadows that something has indeed changed in other regards, and in his very next sentence, we learn what it is he finds hard. He says it's just a little bit more complicated to have to sort of restart. There's a lot of downplaying going on here, which again shows that this sentence is particularly sensitive to him. Just and a little bit minimize how hard it is. A little bit is called mitigation. Mitigation is used to soften what we're saying. He doesn't simply say restart, he says sort of restart. Sort of is hedging language. Overall, Harry's words suggest that a lot has in fact changed, and that he's still processing things.